Namaskar, good evening. Today in the 9 p.m. discussion that we do always, we are going to discuss football. More specifically, East Bengal Football Club, one of the oldest football clubs not just in the country but also in Asia, a club that boasts of massive support. Its supporters range across different states in India and also across different countries in South Asia. However, what's concerning is that East Bengal Football Club has now gone ahead and started an initiative wherein it is sourcing money through crowdfunding. Now bear in mind, this is a professionally run football club with an investor, and it has been reduced to going, and in the own words of the club management, begging for money. In this video, first we will seek to understand the origin, the history of East Bengal Football Club, the crosstown rivalry that it shares with Mohun Bagan, as well as the factors, what exactly has led to the club now being reduced to asking for money, and what indeed should it be doing going forward in the best practices that are followed globally. Namaskar, hello and welcome. I am Bhuvan A. As before we jump into this discussion that I have for you today, first up, let me inform all those of you who are joining us for the Civil Services 2024 preparation. Well, we are coming up. StudyIQ IAS has in fact launched and is closing admissions for a host of different optional subjects. Again, dedicated faculty, experienced faculty, and you can expect a lot of hand-holding in this particular program, especially when you consider the fact that you have the test series included in this particular program. Go ahead and sign up for this. Use the code BALIVE. And bear in mind that this whole program is only available for admissions for the next 2 days. Admissions closing on the 25th of June. All right. So now let's go back to the topic of the discussion for today. East Bengal going crowdfunding. So what essentially are we looking at is that the club is now looking to crowdfund close to 6 crore rupees. And as they say, the money is being raised for development, infrastructure, youth program, and even transfer signings. So essentially the club is asking the supporters to pay up. All right. And bear in mind again that the club boasts millions of supporters. However, this is the first of its kind plea that has been launched by a football club across any domain. In fact, in recent memory, you do not have such an example, such a precedence, where a professionally run football club has come out asking its supporters for money. However, we have to understand that this has also got a social connotation to it. So we will straight away jump into understanding what essentially is the social connotation. Bear in mind, this again is the advertisement that came out in the local Bengali dailies, wherein the club sent out this plea saying, well, go ahead, fund us, contribute whatever you can, 100 rupees onwards, and we will use this money to go ahead and make the club better. Bear in mind again that the club does have a professional investor at this point, but to understand the story of East Bengal, it is important to understand not just the story of East Bengal, but also of Mohun Bagan, the two most famous clubs arguably in the country when it comes to football. A rivalry that draws comparisons to the El Clasico, to the Merseyside derby, right, to the Milan derby. Such is the intensity of this rivalry that exists in Kolkata. Now, for most of the viewers, the audience, well, cricket would be the ideal potent tool of unity that exists for us Indians. But anyone in Calcutta on the day of a Mohun Bagan versus East Bengal match will tell you otherwise, that it all not just say divides people, but it also unites them in their common love for the game. And so we will straight away understand this rivalry first, this great rivalry of Mohun Bagan versus East Bengal. Popularly known as the Kolkata Derby, the tussle between East Bengal and Mohun Bagan is the oldest footballing rivalry in Asia with 100 years worth of rich history. Again, it is compared often to these great rivalries that exist between football clubs across the whole world. So, how did this rivalry start? What was the origin of it? Well, we go back in time first. So essentially, now in West Bengal and present-day Bangladesh, well, these are the two theatres of our understanding. So those from the western region, which is the present day West Bengal of the former undivided Bengal, well, they were called Ghotis. Whereas those from the eastern region, now Bangladesh, well, they were called Bangals. Now this story, this interplay that happens between the Ghotis and the Bangals, that essentially leads to this rivalry coming through across the years, right? So first you had Mohun Bagan that was established, the crosstown rivals of East Bengal in fact. They came into existence first. They in fact beat a club called East Yorkshire Regiment, becoming the first Indian team ever to in fact beat a foreign team, right? So in the early days, while Mohun Bagan players were a mix of both communities, the club was essentially run by the Ghotis. Bear in mind, these are the people, the native to the particular area, native to West Bengal. So even though the team had both Ghotis and Bangals, well, the power center lay in the hands of the Ghotis. Eventually, what happens is that in the year 1920, there is a football match that is to be played. The two teams, Mohun Bagan plays Jor Bagan in the Cooch Behar Cup. Now, Jor Bagan opts not to field their star player Sailesh Bose, again from the eastern part of Bengal, a Bengal in fact, and he is not named in the starting lineup. So, the vice president of the club, vice president of Jor Bagan, Suresh Chandra Chaudhary, he comes through, he makes an ardent plea, makes an impassioned plea, make sure that the player is there in the team, but to no avail. The decision stands that the star centre back shall not play. Now the reasons are not given, however what's implied is something that will change this rivalry forever. Alright, bear in mind again that being native to West Bengal, Ghotis were financially affluent, which is why they were managing the clubs, they were in charge of the clubs, whereas the Bangals were the immigrants who were here searching for a better life, to push through the fervous, the arduous life and make a name for themselves. So, coming back to the football match now, what was essentially implied was that the star centre-back would not play because he was a Bengal, he was from East Bengal. Now this infuriated the vice president of the club, and on a few days later, Chaudhary established the East Bengal Club along with Manmatha Nath Chaudhary, the Raja of Santosh, after which we have named the Santosh Trophy. You had the other stakeholders, Sailesh Bose, Ramesh Chandra and Aurobindo Ghosh, all together coming and forming this club, the East Bengal Club, which would essentially represent those people from present-day Bangladesh who had, say, come across the borders or come to, say, present-day West Bengal. The club was to represent the immigrant population in Kolkata coming from East Bengal across the river Padma, now in Bangladesh. So the battle lines are drawn. On one side you had Mohun Bagan, run by the Ghotis, now representing the Ghotis. And on the other hand you had East Bengal, now being run by Bangals, and obviously it also plays and essentially has a whole Bengal-centric team. So going forward, now that the rivalry has been done, so East Bengal becomes home to the millions of immigrants, while Mohun Bagan represents the established bastion of the Ghotis, both on the football pitch and off it. You had these rivalries that were played out in the streets. Communities were essentially divided. You had friendship in fact was divided. If one friend was a Ghoti and the other was a Bengal, well, the choice was obvious, which team would one support. While both Ghotis and Bangals were a part of the Bengali community, there were several differences in terms of dialect, dressing sense, economic background, and even food palate, food tastes too. So again, this division becomes more and more wide. And post-partition, you have more and more people come in from present-day Bangladesh into West Bengal, which means that this whole Ghoti versus Bengal rivalry only intensifies. This adds to this rivalry. And interestingly, if you were to visit present-day Kolkata, you will find that the club tents, the master tent of the club, well, both the clubs are situated less than 500 meters apart in the Maidan area near Eden Gardens. So once again, what you find is that this cross-town rivalry now represents not just a rivalry, It also represents the aspirations of both sets of people, of what they stand for. All right. So going forward, when you're discussing football, when you're discussing Kolkata, well, you have to obviously discuss fishes too. So fish war is essentially an inherent part of this rivalry now. So the Ilish fish, which is the hilsa, and the chingri, well, the two varieties of fish that one party individually likes. So the Bangals from present-day Bangladesh, well, they have a special place for hilsa, whereas the Ghotis, the native people of West Bengal, well, they like their prawns. In fact, you have instances where on particular days of the derby, the Kolkata derby, depending on which team wins, the price of that particular item that is favored by the team supporters skyrockets the next day. Unimaginable levels. And yet, in spite of that, it sells out in a matter of seconds. So what you have to understand is that this rivalry again is something that is precious. It's 100 years old, in fact. A rivalry that exists because of the common love of the game, yet divided by their passion. So when this whole thing is taken into context of East Bengal now going and crowdfunding and essentially appealing to the emotional side of the Bangals to come and support their team, well, we'll discuss that in a few seconds. Like I told you now, the club has gone ahead and it has tried to strike an emotional chord with its supporters. Here is this tweet that East Bengal FC put out. Bengal power is all about starting from scratch, making your way up and conquering the world with your heads held high. And well, this being posted on World Refugee Day, amply clear that East Bengal stands for the immigrants, those who came across the border for a search of a better life. So, with East Bengal now looking to strike an emotional chord through this whole particular ordeal, the club management has gone across areas. They have been to North Bengal, Tripura, Assam, Bangladesh, wherein they are going, asking for money from the Bangals, those who are from that particular land, those who owe their origin to, say, Bangladesh. Well, go ahead, support us, because they are in trouble, they are in financial trouble. East Bengal, bear in mind, like I have told you, also has an investor group, Imami, right? So it's not that they do not have investor backing, they do have investor backing. So that begs the question, as to a professionally run football club, why should it have to go and ask for money from its supporters? How fair is that? Okay, and this whole initiative of crowdfunding, well, that has rubbed off the supporters the wrong way. Several questions are now being asked as to why the club is in this precarious situation where it is having to go and ask for money from its supporters, ask for donation from its supporters. Is that how a professional club should be run? So we will examine some of the problems that exist with crowdfunding, with this whole initiative that East Bengal Football Club has come up with. Obviously, number one is the problem of accountability and transparency. How much money was raised? Where was it allotted to? Was an audit ordered? Was an audit will be done? Well, there is no information on it yet. At the same time, that begs the question as to why the football club has not, say, decided to go public. Offer shares, have a transparent method of operation. Same time, you must remember that several football clubs across the whole world are listed as public companies, right? So it's not that precedence does not exist. Why is the East Bengal Football Club not considering these particular issues? Same time, what is the role of the investor? Okay, aren't they supposed to guarantee the financial security of the entity? The 6 crore targets that the club has gone ahead with its crowdfunding target for the year 2023, well, what happens next year? Are they going to come ahead and ask for money again? How sustainable would this crowdfunding mechanism be is one question that needs to be answered by the club management. And again, you have had the club which is signing players, in fact. They signed 2 to 3 players just in the last 10 days. So again, if they are cash deficit, if they are financially not sound, how is it that they're going ahead and signing players? So all of these questions essentially put East Bengal club management in the dock. They should come up with some answers that allay the fears of a large number of not just East Bengal supporters, but also football supporters. Okay? And it's also important for the club management to go ahead and learn from the global best practices that exist. Football is a lucrative business. However, what's undeniable is that the fan is at the center of this lucrative business. That the fan needs to be included in the decision-making process, something that most clubs tend to do or at least aspire to do. So for example, you have FC Schalke in the German Bundesliga, which has a strong fan membership program called Schalke 04 Partner Club, where the fans are an inherent part of the decision-making process within the club. They have a say in how the club affairs are run. What's the long-term strategy for the football club? Because again, a football fan not just gives his time and energy and money, but also puts in his emotional support for the team. Right? So you need to include the fan in the decision-making process, something that most clubs in the German Bundesliga do well. Yes? The club East Bengal should probably also look at alternative revenue streams. Right? So you have Borussia Dortmund, again in the German league. It has a lucrative sponsorship agreement for the stadium, the Signal Iduna Park, which is named after a major insurance company. Arsenal Football Club in England, their stadium is named after a popular airline company. So it's not that precedence does not exist. It's not that East Bengal themselves haven't done this before. In 1998, they tied up with United Breweries to rename themselves Kingfisher East Bengal. So if that would have been done then, why is it not being considered now? Why is it that the club is having to go and ask for money from the supporters? You have another huge club, the Real Madrid club, which earns significant revenue through broadcasting and media rights. Now, football is again a game that is coming of age in India. It's gaining massive acceptance, massive interest, which means that there will be viewership. So why not channel those revenue sources also, those revenue medium also? Again, Manchester United, arguably the most popular football club across the whole world. So again, it has a global presence and varied revenue streams from media rights, broadcasting rights, merchandising rights, licensing rights. It's a professionally run business setup. Why can't East Bengal Football Club management also think to do the same thing? Why not include fans at the center of this process rather than just looking at them as a revenue source? These are questions that beg some answers. Going ahead, if Indian football is essentially to come of age, it can't be that a 100-year-old rivalry be lost and fades into oblivion just because it lacked, say, institutional support. All right. So with that, we come to the end of this short video that I had on the East Bengal crowdfunding initiative that has been announced recently. We took a look at not just the history of East Bengal, but also history of East Bengal versus Mohun Bagan. We also looked at what could be done in terms of ameliorating the situation for East Bengal. If you like this discussion, please do consider scanning the barcode and joining my official Telegram channel. A lot of informative content is first posted there, and thereafter we take it into the digital world. Until I see you again tomorrow evening with another topic of interest, this is Bhuvan A signing off from all of us here at StudyIQ. Thanks for watching. Good night.